I am Vince DiQuattro. I'm head of production at Athena Studios, and I served as the post-production supervisor on Mermaids and Mars. I am very old. I've been doing this for a very long time. I started out as a painter. I went to college. I got a degree in fine art, and I loved computer science. In about '95, I went to film school for a computer animation degree at USC. Was one of the first kids that were doing that out of school, and I got a chance to work with Sony and RGA and worked my way up to ILM in 1997. Worked on some big films with some great visual effects supervisors. Most of my career has been making blockbuster special effects like that. I want to be able to make something that's not real look real. So the first thing that we had to do is stay true to the stagecraft. Post-production simply was just an extension of blending these different elements together. Once the pipeline was sort of determined, and once we started rolling out rough block shots, we started doing some rolling design. I call it organic design. Then, to reduce the cost of building full stage sets, John went with this really cool Miliège style proscenium delivery system. And so Tom Proust and John sort of sat down, and Tom really liked that idea, and Tom mentioned Jamie Coleri's work and Lemony Snicket. You basically just march it back in a sort of a multi-plane camera style, kind of like what Disney did back in its old Disney days. So that's what we did. Tom and Lauren Abrams, our painter, delivered these beautiful assets, which we basically used in post. Reflections were big for us. One of the first reflection shots I showed John was Julian looking at his father, Gilbert, out on the pier through a window, but there was no window there. So to sort of recreate that reflection from another shot, I was able to drop Julian's reflection in the window, and I think it really helped sell that moment. Our mission was not to get in the way of the animation. So I did take some large-scale, large company concepts and try to apply them to our pipeline just to make us more efficient, but I knew it was going to be iterative. That is, we would probably not just do one-take finals. As it turns out, with our 300 shots, the average is about 15 takes. So from blocking to final delivery, we went through about 15 different iterations in order to deliver each shot. What I think will be fascinating to see is from the stage element to the final product, I think is really dramatic, and I think it helps sell the story. Using DOF, so a lot of depth of field work. Depth of field is very dangerous with miniature work because it really blows scale, but because everything is sort of in the same scale, we were able to blend things together with hazes and contamination and dust layers, and I think the DOF really works. When Jorge first showed me the opening shot, it's a handoff pullback, handoff truck back from the picture book into the first scene, and Jorge had done a really good job putting together the lighthouse beacon, and that kind of set the tone. I just thought that was so evocative of the seashore that we kind of ran with it. We put in moonlight, moon contam, and Mars contam, and there's a lot of reflections and stuff. Jorge showed me a really cool trick with shimmer on the wave surface, and I think it really helped sell that moment. So there were a lot of post-production moments that we tried to boost, within the story, within the confines of, again, flat stage-based art. We didn't want to do warps and morphs and all kinds of crazy stuff that would sort of break that stage performance. We wanted it to almost be, if you could do it on the stage, we want to put it into post. If you can't do it on the stage, then we don't want to do it. There's one giant crane out at the end of the Mars sequence where Glaucus just misses his target. We put a really big crane back in that one, so that was kind of fun. Some of the other ephemera that you'll see underwater are the caustic effects in sequence, sort of underwater god rays, and the kind of refraction index that you get sometimes underwater, kind of refraction through water gives you the sense that you're actually underwater. So the challenge that we had was, because of budget, we didn't necessarily mouth animate in some of the sequences. So So on Mars, because Mars is such a special place, the mermaids don't talk. They mentally communicate with you.
It will allow you to breathe underwater and
again.
communicate with your mind.
So some people didn't really understand that. So we wanted to sell the fact that the mermaids were communicating telepathically with Julian at first, and before he drinks his magic potion to allow him to swim underwater, he can't mentally communicate either. So once they're all mentally communicating, we wanted to sell that. So we used the mental bubble, which is basically a radio wave effect within After Effects. So that actually is one of the most important post-production additions to help sell kind of a budgetary omission and a major plot point. That's what the director does for you. You know, John was always there for us. So we would go away and do blocks, and then we'd come back with sequences. And you know, near the end, we were doing color sheets and stuff, so John could see that. But basically, we would try to put together a sequence for him, and then show him our solution set based on, you know, the original boards and the original cut. And he would give us feedback, or he would go to Nancy, our client, and he'd ask Nancy what she felt. So there were some very tricky, very complex comps that we used at the end, but again, we wanted to serve that stage sort of look, that sort of Méliès, sort of organic cutout look. So you're right. Like at some point, we went from full-blown, you know, halation and fogs and stuff back to sort of a more cutout look and you know, we added drop shadows and some other stuff too to sort of help sell the fact that the mermaids are sitting between wave ranks. Another element to help sort of instill the idea of like them splashing, but without having us render water in like a particle system. So we've got these really cool graphic wave animations that are just basically flats that he crafted together in Photoshop that we then dropped in with drop shads just to show that they're actually in place on the stage. Very cool. Jorge showed me really cool magic with 3D cameras. We have a lot of multiplaning 3D cameras in the show to help with parallax. That we couldn't have possibly put our animated elements in front of all these stage elements. And so a lot of the animation was shot on green, and so we were able to sort of put this additional multiplane work in post. When I was a kid and I would open that next picture book, you know, fan fold, remember those pop-up books that had that kind of really cool kind of layered look? I sort of imagined we were doing the same thing.